Welcome to Makers International, a podcast of makers from 3 countries, 2 continents, and featuring 5 guys separated only by the same language. Here's your host, Richard Morley.
Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, and good times, whatever time it is, wherever you're listening. Joined with me this evening, Mr. Chris Cute.
What's up?
Mr. Jamie Page.
Well, hello there.
And I think it's because he doesn't actually sleep and he just probably is still in the same hangout from last week and we couldn't get rid of him. It's Steve Twydell.
Boom.
So have you actually been to sleep since we last... In fact, no, you probably haven't, have you?
No, I've just been driving.
Driving the family mad, no doubt. So we don't actually have a guest on. Well, we kind of do, but we don't. But we just...
Oh, thanks.
He's here.
Well, we do have a guest. Steve's our guest host this week.
I know, it just feels like he's been hanging around for so long we couldn't get rid of him.
That's just rude. Anyway, sorry, Steve. I apologize for my British neighbors.
Well, screw you. I'm going to hell.
Steve's nearly been here more than Chris.
Oh, it's getting spiteful now.
Now we go. All right.
We're 30 seconds in and the insults are already flowing. This is going to be a good one, folks. So, very quickly, as always, we'll run through the shout-outs and thank yous, etc., for last week and the week's course. So, first of all, we have Tom Spillane, Jim Dockrell. I hope the renovation of your bathroom's going spiffingly, Jim. Steve Harnell from Harnell Media. Sterling Davis, Billy Burt, Mark Christopher, and Know What Mum Knows. I think I got that right. I usually get that one wrong, but I think I did right. I haven't had time to check Instagram because I've been not on Instagram, the other account. So
there's nothing over there.
No. So go over to Instagram and like one of our pictures and then say something and you'll probably get a shout out.
Sure, while you're there, follow me.
Yes, absolutely. You can follow Chris at the same time. I'm not on Instagram at Instagram.
Because I'm easy to follow. I don't post anything. Anyway, whatever. Sorry, Richard. I didn't mean to mess up your flow at the beginning. Shut up, Steve.
That kind of assumes that I have a flow at the start. I just have a list of random words that I just repeat like a parrot every week. Right. So also I was listening to some other podcasts on during the week, and one of them mentioned about doing ratings on iTunes. So I had a quick look over there and we have got 5, which is 5 more than we had when we started, but go over to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating because apparently that helps and it makes us feel better. So,
and we've only been doing this for 2 years, so if we could get 6, it
would literally double our average. Yeah.
I'm heading over right now.
As always, as every week since.
Damn, we're popular. Anyway, go ahead.
And 34 people watching. That's pretty good watching live. I'm quite impressed by that. So we better say a big shout out to a few of those. And there's loads. The chat's going mental. So I'll just whiz through and pick out some names. Paul Lockwood, Awesome Wood Things, Tracy Keaton, Highland Boxes, Hi Pam, Anna B, Anna's Workshop, and loads of others. Sweet Design and Maggie Billiot. So there's loads on there as well. But sponsors. Always give a shout out to our sponsors because they are awesome. They are makers that support the maker community. First off, we have Yorkshire Grit, the Wood Turns Abrasive Paste. Our good friend Chad over at Mancrafting giving away his awesome Mancrafting mugs. And also Pam from Highland Boxes, who is giving away to our lucky listeners every so often one of her pen blanks. And I can assure you, I was up at Pam's the other week and those pen blanks, if you see the pictures of them online, they look absolutely stunning. But get them in your sticky little mitts and they are blinding. They're honestly the best quality pen blanks I've seen, way better than the stores.
And I'm gonna throw in, just because we very seldom mention these two, but they do help us out very much. Harnell Media, thank you for supporting the podcast. They provide us with our website, and also Maker Central, who's getting us involved in Maker Central 2019 next year as well. So there you go. That rounds out the whole boat.
Which can be found at makercentral.co.uk, not makersinternationalpodcast.co.uk.
Yeah, it's not makersinternationalpodcast.co.
No.
It, as everyone always knows.
Stop it now.
If you wish to find out more about our sponsors,
thank you.
Go to https:// blah, 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 blah.
Oh my God.
makersinternationalpodcast.com/sponsors.
What
That's where it is. That's right, isn't it, Jamie? Makes International Podcast.
Something like that. I know. Ask Steve Neal. He's a website guy.
Yeah, you've now got 43 people going, what the hell was that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And luckily, if you're listening to this on Wednesday, you can actually rewind this and maybe get some kind of. If you're listening live today, sorry guys, you're screwed. All right, Richard, whatever.
And I'm Brett.
And I'm Brett.
You can tell we haven't got a guest on, can't you? And we're just basically.
Well, Steve is our guest. What are you talking about? I mean,
not a real guest, like a proper guest that we're actually interested in talking
about. No. The problem here is, Steve, is that Richard actually knows you. Every guest we have on, Richard always goes, I'll be honest with you, I don't know a damn thing about you. So how about I just try to pronounce your name correctly and we go from there? That's Richard's modus operandi right there. I'm telling you.
That's very true. However,
I'm sorry, Richard, Steve is still a guest. So welcome, Steve.
But he doesn't. Doesn't feel like a guest because I know him so well.
Oh,
and actually, when I retire, Chris, I do plan to sit around and do research for the show.
I've got you covered until then, brother. Don't worry
about it. Awesome. So it now says in my notes. Now we've got to this point. Chris,
yes.
Do we have anything from Chris's corner of the internet as a random listener question this week?
No, we don't. But we do have a random listener question. We've got several, as a matter of fact. So I guess we'll just use the remainders that I have throughout the show today. The first one that I was asked to address this week, and as usual, I forgot to write down who asked it, so I apologize. I can't give you any love. Anyway, the question was, and since Steve, you are our guest, I will ask you to go first. But he wants each one of us to answer this. I'm assuming it's a he because I didn't write down who it was. What is the first proper job that each one of you ever held? And I'm not talking about mowing the lawns for your mom and dad or whatever. The first job that you had to go in, apply for, and were hired for. What was the first job you ever held? Steve? No, say it.
You started with the wrong person. Okay. Well, like anybody, I suppose, like a lot of young boys, I did paper rounds. Was my first official proper money earning job. I did a paper round.
That works.
As a child, but as an adult, my first ever job was I was a plumbing and heating engineer. I went straight into doing the same as my father did.
Oh,
was that for your dad? In like his apprentice, or was it for another?
Initially, I started my apprenticeship with him, but then I finished my apprenticeship with a company that we both worked for.
Right. Gotcha.
He was self-employed to start with, and I started my apprenticeship with him, and then his business folded, and he went and worked for a company, and they also took me on as an apprentice to continue with. Yeah. So yeah.
Cool. See, now you say that, I think I already knew that from when you were on as our proper guest way back when.
Oh, you're actually listening then?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
there was a point in time when Steve was a proper guest as opposed to just a guest.
I was a proper guest.
I don't understand you English. I freaking never will.
Richard,
anyway,
could you just put that shovel down because?
Wow, you guys are friggin' weird. Jamie, what about you? What's the first proper job you ever had?
First proper job? Well, I actually worked for a rather famous company in the UK. Chris, you might actually have heard of it. It's a company called Spearmint Rhino.
Oh, okay.
Right.
What'd you do?
I was a dancer.
Were you really?
Yeah, I used to do some rather exotic dancing there.
Did it involve a bow tie?
Yeah.
Nice.
No, I'm just kidding. I will say.
Really? No.
I wasn't going to give up what that actually was, Jay, because there's people out there who don't know. Anyway, go ahead.
I was actually a UPVC fabricator, basically meaning I made double glazed windows. And I used to make pictures and things like that using the lead on the glass and things like that.
I was just about to ask you to demonstrate, JP. I'm so upset that you stopped the joke there.
I'm so glad he did. If that was going to be your request, because I don't want to see that. Richard,
I was ready for the bow chicka bow wow.
Boom chicka wow wow.
Richard, take us off this trampoline and tell me you had like a sane first job.
Well, my first kind of the first thing I did for money. Well, that's not the way it started.
Not the first thing you did for money.
No, the first kind of occupational task I had, which I would be,
my God,
paid for, was actually as a reservist in the TA. So at 18, I left the cadets, joined the TA, and they gave me a gun, a big heavy rucksack, and then some money at the end of the month. But that wasn't, to be honest, that's not what I consider a job. That was more punishment. But the first ever actual kind of real job was working for a camping chain of retailers in the UK called Blacks, where you could go and buy walking boots and cagoules and tents.
Well, what'd you do there? I mean, that's what the question is. What'd you do for them?
I sold walking boots and cagoules and tents and stuff.
I thought you were going to say run a cash register. All right, I'll make mine easy because I don't have to hesitate. I was a dishwasher in a restaurant. There you go. My first proper job. I was a dishwasher in a restaurant.
Sweet.
Okay, there you go.
They strapped you to the end of a stick and...
I wash myself with a rag on a stick.
There's more to that story than that, but I mean, I started my first proper job where I had to go clock in, clock out, and get paid for was a dishwasher. So yeah, I was 14 years old. What do you want?
And that was in his mum's house.
No. You don't know. Oh, if you had only known my mom, you'd know how funny that is. Anyway, no, my mom would have been the one to fudge my time card and go, I'll pay you anyway. Here you go. Just don't tell your dad. That's hilarious.
That's what mums do, isn't it?
It is what moms do. That is what moms do.
That's part of the job description.
All right. Do you guys have any topics lined up that you want to talk about today? Because I know we talked about a few, or do you just want to kind of play it off the cuff and go with what we have in the chat? Because we've had a few questions already.
I mean, I haven't actually been looking at the chat. I've been trying not to spit my tea all over the computer, actually, after Jamie's job description. One thing that literally just popped in my head, and it wasn't anything that we discussed before the show, but it kind of came out of Steve's live chat this afternoon, because you mentioned on your live chat about the whole doing more live streams. And as Chris, you mentioned earlier, I've done about 146 hours of live streaming this weekend with Kat.
Mm-hmm.
And I wondered if you
Richard
guys,
Tube.
Yes.
It's been Richard Tube this weekend. Anyway, go ahead.
So if anyone's kind of, we could sort of go with that, or see what the questions are like in the chat. I'm really not fussed.
Well, Jamie, do you want to bring up that other question?
Yeah, there was a question sent to us by a Gavin Stockdale today. It's it basically said it's Gav from Sweet Design Q. No, that's Gavin from Sweet Design, and it's question.
Right.
Wait to post your up, JP.
So it's not actually Sweet Design Q, it's Sweet Design with a Q. Okay, got it.
Yeah, and the Q is the question, as in question.
Gotcha.
Right. So here's a question for all of us, right? So I'll go last because I've actually got a bit of a funny story for this. It says, what is one thing that you have saved from the rubbish bin or reclaimed or recycled that you have made into something sweet, and did it give you a bigger buzz for recycling and making something than what it was destined for landfills?
Yeah, I did. I grabbed an empty beer can that I had, and I filled it back up with beer that had spilt out of a bottle, and then I reused the can to drink the beer, and it gave me a great buzz.
Fair dues.
I reused the beer can. I mean, that all right, whatever. I mean, that wasn't the, I don't know, genre of the answer he was looking for, but that's the first thing that came to mind because I remember doing that when I was 17 at a party at the beach. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Dave, Richard?
Come back to me because I'm literally just looking for a picture and in fact, no, that's all right. I've got it right. So it's something actually that I haven't recycled yet. I went round to a client's house and literally, I'm going to show on the screen for people watching. If you actually, I took this photograph of a chair, that was out on the street outside the house that I was visiting, right?
Okay, for those that can't see it, it's a winged back chair.
It's actually a Parker Knoll chair, which is like quite a high end chair by all accounts. So I didn't actually know that until I was told. But they were literally it come to the end of its life. From there, they got it like third hand, and they literally just put it out on the street because they didn't need it anymore, just for anyone to take away. And I happened to be the first person to rock up, and I said to them, "Is that for the bin?" And they went, "Yeah, do you want it?" And I said, "Yeah, all right then." So I took a photograph and I texted it back to Kat and said, "Do you fancy doing a collaboration restore on this chair? I'll do all the woodwork, strip it down, and then we'll reupholster it." And she went, "Yeah." So I brought it back, and we've got the chair in the living room under a blanket at the minute, which will probably stay there for like 2 years. But the plan is to do that, to take this really nice old chair and reupholster it and give it a whole new life. So I haven't done it yet, but that I think is going to be the one that's going to top the list for me for a fair old while.
Awesome. Is it comfortable to sit in?
It's actually a really nice chair. Yeah, really nice.
All right. Steve, do you have anything?
Yeah, I pulled an aquarium out of a skip. It was a huge, I think it was like 6 foot long by 2 foot deep, the whole, proper wall. It would have been sunk into a Chinese restaurant. It was outside a Chinese restaurant, and they'd just thrown it into the skip. And lucky enough, it hadn't broken because it was encased in half the wall still. So I climbed into the skip and chipped away all the plaster and stuff that was attached to it, pulled it out, and I turned it into a lovely aquarium, and it stayed in my home house for about 3 or 4 years before.
Awesome.
Ousted. And it was cool, and it had all the pumps and filters and everything with it. So
they must have just done a remodel. They must have just done a remodel and pulled that out. I mean, because I've been to some Oriental restaurants like you're talking about. Some of those aquariums are freaking huge. How big was this thing?
Yeah, it was 6 foot, about 6 foot long, and about 2 foot square. Do you know? So it's like
held a lot of
tank,
water. That held a lot of water.
It was cool. Yeah.
All right, Jamie.
Wow. Really lucky that they came out in one piece, actually, because all the ones that I've ever seen of those, you can literally like throw a person through them, and then they'll walk, and the fish comes down in the restaurant and everything. So the fact that it's been ripped out of the wall.
You watch too many movies, Richard.
Yes, he does. Jamie, save us from Richard's ramblings.
Right, yeah. Well, the things that I've got is I haven't actually repurposed them at the moment, but there's kind of a funny story that goes behind it. I had to go into town for whatever reason, get some money out of the bank to pay more bloody bills. But I ended up going into a charity shop. And while I was in the charity shop, I got some just little drinking glasses. And my plan was to buy something from a charity shop, change it in some way, and redonate it back to the charity shop so they could resell it. So that way they're basically making double the money or whatever. And I'd also make a video on it so they have a story to go with the sale. So while I'm in there, I'd made the purchase of the glasses. And while the nice ladies behind the counter are wrapping up the glasses, I'm showing them my Instagram and telling them the story of what I'm going to do. Well, there's a guy standing behind me. And he's obviously listening to the conversation. Well, after everything's been packed up, he taps me on the shoulder and he was like, "I've just heard everything you've just said, blah, blah, blah." And he starts going, he goes, I'm glad you're doing this for the cats and the animals. And he keeps going on to me about cats and how saving the cats. I'm thinking, I don't like cats. Right? And he keeps going on about it, right? And he keeps mentioning cats. I'm thinking to myself, why does he keep going on about cats? Right? And yeah, he kept going on and on and on about it. Well, as I'm walking out of it, out the shop, I turn around and look around. I've walked into a charity shop called Cats in Crisis. So yeah, that's my funny story. So,
but Jamie, when you recycled that and made something else and you donated it back, did it give you a buzz?
Yes. Well, I haven't finished it, but I'm sure it will do.
Just wait doing
something for charity is always a good thing. And in actual fact, I'll challenge anyone out there now to go into a charity shop, buy something, alter it, and redonate it back to them with a video.
Already done it.
There you go. And then actually, because if you can turn it into something better than what it was that you bought, they can actually make more money from it. So yeah, that's a great idea.
Hashtag Makers International Charity Challenge.
There you go. That's a long hashtag. Makers International Charity. Okay, good luck typing that.
That's us, isn't it? We're our own charity case.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that's how it will be spun once it gets out into the public. So we may want to rethink that.
But in all seriousness, now, actually, to follow this on, one of my best friends from school, secondary school, his little sister was and I think she still is, although I haven't spoken to her a couple of years, was a manager for a branch of Oxfam, the charity shop. And they actually have, to my knowledge, some real difficulties sometimes in, basically, people are like, oh, I don't want this, I don't want to throw it out, I'll take it to the charity shop. And there's actually things that they get donated in the charity shops that they just can't sell. And it literally, they sell the clothes, a lot of them, by the pound to recycling warehouse places where they all get mushed up and turned into carpet and all that sort of stuff. So it is recycled, but there literally is loads of stuff that they can't sell because it is just tap. And one of the things is mirrors, like massive mirrors. And another thing is like footwear and shoes and leather and things like that. And there's lots of things that we as makers, we see and make videos on all the time. Like, how many people have made a picture frame for a picture, and it could have been a frame for a mirror. So you could literally take some really cheap, old, nasty, dodgy mirror and put a nice frame on it, get a video, get a bit of satisfaction, use up some scrap wood, and then donate it back to the charity shop that actually someone could buy and they could get more money for.
Do you know what else they're not allowed to sell that they get a huge amount of? Chris would like this. They get a lot of chopping boards, and they're not allowed to. They're not allowed to sell them.
Oh, darn.
Because yeah, they're not allowed to sell them because they've had food stuff on them.
Right. Well, you can't.
And they don't know what food stuffs have been on them. So what I do is I go to a lot of my local charity stores and I buy all of their chopping boards from them, and I use them for turning.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And actually, if you took a chopping board that you'd made that's brand new, I bet they could sell that.
Maybe.
So if you took a chopping board and like resurfaced it and refinished it so it was basically brand new, they probably could sell that. So there's another way to kind of recycle and reuse and all the rest of it.
We don't really. I don't, and unless I'm just plain ignorant, which would not be surprising. We don't really have a lot of charity shops here in the States. I mean, there's the Restore that we have here in the state that's basically done in conjunction with Habitat for Humanity. But outside of that, what we have is like Goodwill and basically Salvation Army. And Goodwill is, I mean, if anybody's ever done any research on Goodwill, then you know that they claim to be a charity store, but they're not. I mean, they basically maybe 10% of the money they make actually goes back to somebody else. So it's it's kind of one of those things. So we don't really have the Cats in Crisis shops that Jamie has.
So You have a lot of thrift shops, though, don't you? Which is
Yeah, but
which
I mean,
actually businesses. They're actually
yeah.
businesses. And,
Yeah, but those are proper, like those are like mom and pop businesses. So there's no actual charity shops of that nature. Maybe we're just not that giving of a people. I don't know. But I mean, there is the restore.
I'd like to see some cats in crisis, especially after I've dug up that garden and cleaned it up, and they've just gone and shat everywhere.
Get a dog.
We've got one, but she's getting old now.
Oh yeah, of course you have. Yeah.
Well, like I said, I could just be ignorant. I've never been exposed to it here in the States, but I'm not aware of any big popular ones here in the States. There may be a few mom and pops around there that do that kind of thing, but I'm not aware of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's loads. I think every high street up and down the UK has got at least half a dozen of it. Everyone says the high street's dying in this country, and a lot of the shops are disappearing, admittedly, but there's a lot of charity places in there. I mean, Steve and Jamie about to tell you. I mean, Oxfam's a good one, actually, just like Goodwill, and you saying, Chris, with the, how much of a charity actually is it, et cetera,
Right.
And I basically had exactly the same conversation with my buddy's little sister, because Oxfam has, or had certainly, that very same reputation. The guy that is the top of Oxfam is on a massive income, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And how much of the money that they turn over, it does go to all the causes. And yeah, that kind of makes sense. But one thing she said to me was, well, it's not just about that. It's also, in a way, they give jobs to people that actually otherwise wouldn't have jobs. Because a lot of these charity shops on the high street they're run by volunteers that don't get paid.
Well, that's just a myth. Then they're just selling what they do incorrectly. Then, I mean, it's like if they're a job, if they're a job charity employer, then call it that. I mean, that's not.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to go deeper than just saying it's 100% charity.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, they, regardless of how much money they may or may not turn over, they still do good things for people that otherwise wouldn't have necessarily had good things happening. So that, I don't want to get into politics or whatever, because that's really,
I mean, the term non for profit is stretched everywhere.
Let's change the subject then. We've got another question out from the chat, and he actually asked it quite some time ago, so I'm not even sure if he's still around to hear an answer. Mark Christopher had a question. He wanted to know, how do you handle turning down a request from a previous client for a job you just don't want to do? Not for lack of ability, just for lack of interest. So if you guys deal with a lot of clients, and I don't believe Jamie does either. Steve, I'm not sure about you. I know Richard does. But if you have a previous client who's been a good client, but they want you to do a job that you're just not looking to do, or you're not interested in doing, regardless of the money, how do you go about turning down that client and disappointing that what apparently is a good relationship that you have with them? So is there a proper way to do that, or isn't there, I guess, is what he's asking. What's your experience?
Fake a seizure.
My answer would be make him a bacon sandwich and apologize. Say, I'm sorry, I can't do it. Here's a bacon sandwich. Here's a bacon sandwich.
I was in business for a few years, so I've kind of had to deal with that, and in the adult sense. But I suppose the only way I used to deal with it is be honest with them. If you really weren't able to do the job because of either you just couldn't face doing it again, or it just didn't interest you, be honest with them, because if you lie, it'll come back and it'll bite you on the ass. But not only that, they'd appreciate it more. But what I tried to do was I would let them down, but I would also try and find another tradesman that would do it for them. Oh,
so you're saying, look, I can't do that, or I'm not really interested in doing that, but I have a friend who does, and here's his number.
I have another guy that might take that job on for you, because he's not got much work at the moment, or he hasn't done much of that and he wants to get into it. So I always used to try and move the work around the different trades and stuff. That's
a good answer, because I mean, actually, what you're doing for your client is you're saying no to their request, but you're providing them with a solution.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much do similar to that. I mean, if I have a customer that is a kind of a loyal customer that I've worked for before, and they're a good customer, I'll pretty much do anything, if I can. Just like Steve said, if you can't do a job, then tell him you can't do the job, because it will just come out, and then you'll look an idiot, and you'll never have a job off them again. But if you say to them, I don't know, let's say, for example, somebody says, can you do this job? And it's going to be a real pain, or it's going to take, it looks like a 5-minute job, but it's going to take ages, or you just know it's going to be more complicated and cause you more pain. I generally will do it anyway, purely for the reason that even a long customer is going to have little jobs. And the little jobs, they make big jobs at the end of the day. And if you've got 5 little jobs, that basically is one big job. And you've still got to eat. Sometimes you just have to swallow your pride. And there literally is no job too small.
Hey, if you need the work, then there's never a no. I mean, I can always do what I need to do. Sure.
So if I'm in a situation where I've got, half a dozen confirmed jobs and the calendar's looking booked for X amount of time, then I'll say, I'll happily do the job. I am booked up for this period of time. So you can either, I'll do it at the end of that and we can book you in as normal, or I can try and squeeze you in. If it's just a little job, I'll try and squeeze you in on the way home, maybe spread it over a couple of days. It's not quite as convenient as doing it all for one day, but if you pass in, things like that, and just kind of lessen the blow for me as well. Because they do say a change is as good as a rest. So you might be through the middle of a big job, and for 3 nights spread over a week and a half, you're doing something else.
Fair enough. All right.
Go
ahead, Steve. I'm sorry.
Sorry. There's the other side of it as well, because you can seriously hurt yourself mentally through stress by saying yes to too much work, and then it just gets so much that you're letting so many people down, or you're letting clients down, that it just gets too much. And you're just better off being honest with yourself and honest with the customer, straight down the line every time, because it will always either hurt the customer or, even worse, hurt yourself.
You've got to think long term, and I totally agree with what you're saying, Steve, but I am a firm believer in the fact that if you've got long-term customers or people that you've worked for before, they come back to you for a reason. So you've got to look after them. And potentially, I don't like to kind of burn bridges by saying, because
but Richard, I'm sorry, but Steve's answer to that was really good. I mean, if it was something that if you were personally too busy, and this client who you would love, you admire, I don't think there's any harm. And I don't think they would look at it as any harm as if you turned them on to somebody who could handle that request for them, as opposed to you, especially if it's something that might be a little bit beyond your reach, that you might struggle with just because you've never really done it before. As much as you want to keep that person happy, it might be better to give them somebody who can do it for them tomorrow, as opposed to you saying, I can do it next week. I mean, I think there's an advantage to that. Yes, that's something you have to weigh as a businessman, I'm sure, but I'm just saying there is an advantage to giving them a solution other than what you currently are faced with.
Yeah, so
9 times out of 10 as well, that tradesman that you've passed the work on to is going to pay it forward to either another tradesman or back to you as well.
Yeah, that's very true. And as long as you've got guys that who are absolutely solid, because if you're going to pass something off to somebody else, you've got to it might as well be you doing the work. So you've got to pass it off to somebody who is going to do a good job, not somebody that you hope does a good job, because if they do a bad job, it might as well have been you do a bad job.
Right.
That can also be a bit damaging as well.
New question. And this question is from me. And by asking it, the audience is going to be throwing me virtual Rotten Tomatoes and hitting me with them. But I'm gonna ask it anyway, because it's something I've been pondering about for the past week and have seriously considered to start right now. Have any of you or anybody out in the live audience today, has anybody even started thinking about making holiday presents yet? And I'll tell you why. I know we're only in the second week of September, but I asked this only for one reason, because I am determined not to have the December that I had last year. I am looking to try and do as much of this work as I possibly can now before the 24th and 25th of December rolls around. And I happen to celebrate Christmas. If that offends you, I apologize. If you celebrate something else, then it doesn't really matter, because that kind of present giving holiday situation happens at some point in December, has anybody started thinking about what they're going to do, or have you even started on doing those things already? Or is this like September, Chris, bring me Halloween first and shut the hell up? I mean, what are you guys thinking about?
Yeah, I've started on my gold and silver bananas.
Are you making a fruit bowl this year for people there, Stephen?
No, I've in all seriousness, I've actually got to start making a few bits and pieces, because my local shop has said that they would give me a corner to put a few holiday bits up. So that's next on the agenda. So yeah,
well, it's
gold
just
and silver bananas.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because my and I love her to death, but I mean, my wife relies on me to make the presents that she hands out at her office, and also the presents that she gives to her family every year. And last year, I got hit by her with a list that was like, are you freaking kidding me? It was like, I think it was December 7th, somewhere around the first week of December, and she hands me a list of names. And she doesn't care what I make, but she says, I need a present for each one of these people. There were 47 names on this list. And it's December 7th, and a lot of them had to be shipped across country. So they had to be done at least a week before, if not a week and a half before Christmas. So if you stop and do the math on that, I had a week to get some of these presents done and out the door. So and trust me, it wasn't a lot of fun. I mean, I normally enjoy making presents for people, but that was not fun because I was out in the shop all day grinding through stuff. It was just a pain in the ass. So that's why I asked the question, has anybody even thought about doing it yet? And a lot of people have said, yeah, that one gentleman, I forget who it was, that went by. He said, yeah, my wife asked me about that not long ago. And that's why I'm going, yeah, I can relate, brother.
I'm just looking through the chat, actually, and there are literally 2 tomatoes being thrown, one from Red Smith and one from Awesome Wood Things. But there are surprisingly a number of people saying that, yeah, they are. And they have already started like last week. And
I am so glad I'm not alone then, because it just concerns me. Been there, done
those
that.
Of you,
don't want to do it again.
For those of you not in the United States of America, math is actually maths.
It's maths. Yeah, I'm sorry. Maths. Of which I understand littles.
I think I've got to make a couple of Santa Claus scroll saw pictures for a few kids, but that's about it, I think.
But I mean, Jamie, are you anxious to knock those out and get them out of the way, or is that just something you put on the back burner?
No, it's all right. They only take about 20 hours, so.
All right. Well, see, I
can stack cut them as well. So,
well, that's awesome. I'm talking about the urge. Does anybody feel the urgency to make things now, or are you of the mind of going? It's
no, I'll stand there and do it in like 3 days.
Okay.
So if you stack them, does that mean it actually takes 40 hours?
No, it means I can do 2 at once.
That's what I mean.
I'll tell you what is potentially a good one if you're doing like the craft fairs and stuff like that. Do you remember the video that Steve Ramsey put out quite a few years ago now, making the wooden snowflakes? Then they were basically like, you know how you do like a segmented log for a spindle. So he cut 6 diamonds on the table saw, and then he stacked them all together, and then he just ran it through the bandsaw, sliced them all up, and there was snowflake shapes.
Yeah.
I did that 3 or 4 years ago now, and you can literally make hundreds in a day. They're really, really quick and easy to do, and sand and all the rest of it. But they go really well at the craft fairs because you can sell them cheap. You can literally sell them for £1 each, and they'll fly out. So rather than sitting on 2 chopping boards that nobody wants to pay for, everyone walks past and go, oh, I'll give that to Auntie such and such and Uncle so-and-so, and people are spending £5 here and there all through the day. So if people are out there doing the craft fairs, that could be a good one.
It's the same as the bandsaw reindeers as well. They fly out the door.
That was the first Christmas after I got my bandsaw and I was still working full-time in the office, and I literally paid for the bandsaw that one Christmas, because people were just lapping up those reindeers, and they're quick to do. But also that it's like everyone has like that packet of biscuits because the person you haven't seen for 10 years just walks past your house, knocks on the door, and gives you a bottle of wine, and you have to scramble around looking for that Christmas present to give in return. They make really good kind of last minute forgot you presents, just to kill the conversation.
You could just scroll saw, Richard.
That ranks right up there with the trivia question I had lined up to ask. If you guys want to play a quick game of trivia, and that can involve the people out in the audience too. And it's only one question, and it's just as stupid as what Richard just said. Richard, I'm just kidding, Richard. I'm just joking. Jamie, we need that thrift store raising money for Richard, like right now. That charity shop. Thanks for taking care of the cats. All right, seriously, guys, because I mean, all four of us here today are woodworkers to some extent. Anyway, me not so much, more you guys. But anyway, toothpicks, gentlemen. Trivia question for you: toothpicks. What kind of wood is generally used to make them? I will give you 4 options. And I don't know that anybody even knows this. You're going to be guessing. So take a shot in the dark here, guys. Poplar, white oak, birch, or pine?
Birch.
Jamie?
I'm going to say
Poplar, white oak, birch, or pine. Richard?
I would go with the third one. Not pine, not oak. The one, is it birch?
Birch.
Which one, Richard?
Right, third one. And I had to do that in my head twice as well. The third one, definitely.
No. Well, you know what?
You're all wrong.
No, you're absolutely right. The majority of 80% of the toothpicks that are manufactured are made out of birch. Just in case you guys were curious. So there you go. That's your trivia question for today. We have nowhere else to go except up from there, ladies and gentlemen. So take it from there. Go ahead.
Oh my Lord.
So the next time you pick your teeth, thank a birch tree.
Except for the ones that are made from bone.
Well, I guess that all depends on your stature. But all right, good.
Or plastic.
Plastic ones are a nightmare.
Yeah.
Did you ever put something metal in your mouth and hit a filling? Oh,
No, God, yes.
Oh.
The worst one was when you get a bit of chewing gum and you have like they're Wrigley sticks. You used to have a bit of silver paper. You'd open them up and you get a little bit of silver paper stuck to the thing, and you chew it. Oh!
You know what adds insult to injury in that case is then you stop and think, why the hell was I putting this friggin' piece of metal in my mouth in the first place? It's not like I was going to eat it. I've been a dumbass twice, and it took 2 seconds, and this one actually hurt. Sure, let's chew up this aluminum can. Ow! I have a filling. I forgot. Now I'm a real dumbass. I mean, why would you put a piece of metal in your mouth?
Some people just like chewing metal.
Hey.
I was just going with the assumption that it was like an accidental thing, Chris.
I'm not saying I haven't done it. I'm just saying that
Chris must use plastic spoons and knives.
No, I'm just saying. I'm not saying I haven't done it. I'm just saying that was my initial response to when I did it. I was like, well, that was just dumb on several levels. What the hell?
It's a particularly nutritious looking Coca-Cola can. I might try that afterwards.
Let's crunch that up a bit.
No, bad idea.
Holy God. There are better ways to crush a can, people.
The show is neither paid nor endorsed by Coca-Cola.
Unless I really wish.
And Sam Adams is served in a glass. Thank you. So, and no, let's not get into talking about chewing glass, because I had a friend that did that when I was in high school, and that's just stupid.
We've all done that at some point now.
But if Coca-Cola do want to sponsor us, you can contact us over on our Facebook page.
Well, we've got a better chance of getting Nike to sponsor us. Hell, they'll sponsor anybody at this point in time. They don't give a hell. They obviously don't give a damn. But I don't want to get into that.
But then again,
I mean, I would, but I don't. So I'll leave that alone.
There's been the obvious responses in the chats about now fillings and etc. Apparently, Apparently, mercury amalgam fillings are not used in the States anymore. Chris, you'll be glad to know.
That doesn't replace the ones that I already have in my mouth. But thank you for telling me.
That was exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, the fact that you don't use them now doesn't mean to say it doesn't magically disappear.
I'll just go be a newborn again and start all over.
Well, the Woodgeneer has had a fantastic idea for Christmas.
What's that?
He said he's been tempted to make a nude calendar for Christmas and charge those on my sticker swap list, not for me to send it to him. That is genius.
You know what?
Because I'll be getting one then.
If we were to start a Patreon, that would be how I'd want to start it. All right, we have a nude calendar of all four of us. Please subscribe now. I will give you a free copy. That way, we're assured to never have any Patreons. But we could always claim that we made the effort and we offered a reward.
Isn't that tantamount to blackmail? It's an interesting twist on the Patreon business model, isn't it?
We can always say, "Hey, we tried
bribery and extortion."
We tried it. We even offered up, a reward, and we just couldn't get anybody that wanted to do it. So we gave up on the
Patreon
idea.
Blackmail feed.
Send us your money, or we'll send you the calendar.
Buy this now, or we're going to mail it to you.
Send us some money, or we will send you some of this shite that we make.
I'm pretty damn sure nobody wants to see that.
Be warned, or you will get Steve's banana.
And it won't be a silver one.
By the way, December is not as merry as you think it is. Ho, ho, ho.
So trying to get this back to Christmas and away from the calendar. As difficult as it now, like the image.
You can have Chrissy's baubles.
Well, I was going to ask, what are you guys actually making? Is anyone making stuff for Christmas? There was that, like, people said yes they are or they haven't. So Steve's making these silver and gold bananas. Presumably they're like a craft stally type thing.
My general make for Christmas would be snowman tea light holders. Well, they're like a box that opens. You put spare tea lights into them, and then in the hat there's a tea light. So I make tons of them every year. I donate some of them to the local creche as well for the kids for presents and stuff. And I make Christmas baubles. I make pens. I make like Santa's sacks and anything to do with Christmas, and I can make on the lathe, which is pretty much anything.
That's kind of what I did too. 2 years ago, I had to do a mixture of I turned wine glass stems. Steve, are you familiar where you can actually turn the stem and then put the actual glass? Yep. I did. I think I managed to get 8 of those done. 8 sets of those done 2 years ago, and then I also spent a lot of time with pens. Last year I did because I had no choice. I was under the timeline. I turned a ton of friggin' pens last year, and other stuff too. But I started this year kind of sort of already, and they're just little. Well, we call them tchotchkes here in the States, but just little small like stocking stuffer gifts that will.
He was a dude on Happy Days, wasn't he?
Tchotchke. Yeah, that's him.
Steve. Is that the Fonz's nephew?
Hey.
The fact that you even Steve, you are showing your age, and you're closer to me than you think. All right, I'm saying, what an ass. Stocking stuffers. I started turning these little page markers because my wife's mothers and both of her sisters and also her brother are avid book readers, and so I started making these little pendant things for them to mark their page when they're, done reading for the day. They can put it aside and come back to it. So, yeah, but I've only made like 4 of them so far. So I haven't really gotten off to a brilliant start, but I've started, I guess, in a roundabout way.
Hey.
Okay, hold the front page. I'm going to want to back everyone up a little bit here. Steve, you just said you make stuff on the lathe for Christmas, which is pretty much anything. And the Red Smith has come in and said he wants you to make him an Eiffel Tower.
On the lathe.
On the lathe. Gauntlet, lathe down.
Okay.
No way. It cannot. I'm not going to say it cannot be done.
You've seen me turn cubes on the lathe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they weren't.
It's just a series of cubes.
But they weren't totally done exclusively on the lathe, were they?
Yeah.
Yes, they were.
Okay.
From a log. Yep, from a log.
All right. I'm intrigued because that's beyond my friggin' ability. I'll tell you that right now. I've never turned anything. I've never turned anything square on a lathe ever. But if you know how to do it, I'd be interested in finding that out.
I've already been challenged though. I've already got a challenge that I've got to complete. I've already started, but I think I've figured out. But Dave the Wood Barber has already challenged me to turn Snowflake.
Oh, okay.
Outside in his underwear.
This was the first attempt.
Oh, that's brilliant! It almost looks like a swastika. Good for you.
Yeah, I pulled it out of the I pulled it out of the ceiling earlier.
I was going to say, it looks like one of those little like spider things that were like 8 pixels from Spectrum games.
That's Kung Fu Steve right there. The Ninja Irish guy. All right, let's go. Wait a minute. What? Yes, them Ninja Irish people. You got to worry about them.
Hang on a minute. What does Red Smith need an Eiffel Tower for? They've already got one in France.
Plus, you know what? He's a metal worker, and the Eiffel Tower's made out of metal. Red, get off your ass and make your own damn Eiffel Tower. What's your problem?
Could be worse. I could have asked for the Leaning Tower of Pizza.
Yeah.
No, good point. Well, that's actually, I could do that.
Yeah. Just get it really nice and flat, and then just get a catch.
Well, my problem would be not making it look like a dildo, but I could do it.
Warning, you are watching this program.
I'm just surprised that it was Chris that came from and none of us.
I can edit it. I can edit that out. It's all right.
I can say what I like. I do the editing.
I do the editing. I'm sorry.
No, in all seriousness, the last thing I want to do, Steve, is kind of belittle the mysticness of the turning a cube. I've seen it done on a metal lathe before, out of a
Well, you need to go back and watch some of my videos then, Richard.
Yeah, no. So I know that the process of how it's done on a lathe, and once you see it done, it actually makes sense. Than it being round. But yeah, that is pretty.
Don't worry, Steve. They're in his watch later list.
Hold on, I'll go and get it for you. 1 second.
You know what? I actually know how you could actually turn a cube on a lathe now that I stop and think about it. That makes sense.
You watch. Be careful. Just listen a minute. You're going to hear his saw go. He's going to cut up to a 4x2.
Oh, God. Because we have time for Steve to do this. Richard, I'm going to start my shout outs because we've got about 6 minutes left. So I'm going to start today. And when Steve comes back, we can pause and then we can pick up from there just because, once again, I have to do the editing. So we're getting this done today. My shout out this week, and if anybody has not seen this video, they need to go see it. And the last time I checked, it only had 95 views, which is like almost a sacrilege. A former guest of ours here on this show. And if you haven't checked out the video she put out this week, or if you're not subscribed to her channel, please go do so like immediately. You'll be happy. Laura Matthews Art is her YouTube channel. She put out a video called The Little Sparrow. Just go and watch it. It's awesome. She's awesome. That's all I'm going to say. This girl is extremely talented, and I know Richard and I know Jamie know exactly who I'm talking about. And if you haven't seen this video, go look at it. Laura Matthews Art. video titled "The Little Sparrow," and subscribe to her when you do, because she is. I don't know where she finds the patience to do the things that she does, but they're absolutely awesome. So go look.
Yeah, and her videos are really quite short as well, aren't they? Only like
Yeah, this is actually under 2 minutes long, so it will take none of your time. Go ahead, and you'll be happy. Steve, that's awesome.
There you go. Cube inside a cube inside a cube. From a log.
It's kind of redundant, isn't it?
Yeah, you do that with a pillar drill.
Yeah, but you ain't got one.
No, I don't have one. So
There you go. Eiffel Tower.
That's actually, there you go, Red. It's the Eiffel Tower.
Awesome.
That's actually awesome, Steve. Nice job, buddy.
Do you know, it never occurred to me that we can actually do these little segments kind of out of kilter for the show, because obviously you do the editing, don't you?
Sure, absolutely. Go ahead.
Hello.
Stop it.
Cool. So who's your shout out this week then, Jamie? Do you have a shout out?
My shout out, right? My shout out comes once again from Instagram, and it goes to Anna
Anna's workshop. Anna B.
Don't
be that one. Anna, we love you.
Anna B. Let's say that just to keep it easy, nice and easy for me.
Banana.
Yeah. Anna. Yeah, Anna B. Yeah, just to keep it easy for us. Now Anna. Every time there's a live stream going on, she's there.
And she's awesome, by the way.
Yeah, she's absolutely brilliant. She's a huge supporter of the community. And to be honest, about time we showed her some love back. So yeah, like Chris just said as well, I believe she's got a YouTube channel, but I don't think there's anything on there, to be honest.
But she's on Instagram, so that you go follow her.
On Instagram, yeah. So yeah, go over and follow her. All links will be down in the description on the Wednesday release.
Yep.
On SoundCloud and YouTube and all sorts.
iTunes, everywhere. So give Anna some love, because she really does support the community, and she's just a joy to even actually have a conversation with. So if you can, go give Anna some love.
I met Anna when we were at Making Central, and she genuinely is absolutely lovely. Fantastic character. And she actually told me off after Maker Central.
I love her even more. Please subscribe twice to Anna now, if you can, please.
You know how rubbish I am with names? Like completely rubbish with names. I've always known Anna as either Anna B or Anna's Workshop, and I picked up a sticker at Maker Central that was Anna Concrete.
Yeah, that's her as
well. But I'm doing the whole, I've got these stickers and I've got these stickers, and then it's Anna B, Anna Workshop, and and then Anna Concrete, and I thought it was somebody else. I wasn't 100% sure, and the name, part of the sticker name was very similar or the same as part of somebody else's sticker that I haven't actually met in person. And I knew I'd just picked the sticker up from like the YouTube area, and then she like messaged me or left a comment for everyone going, "No, that's me. I'm Anna Concrete," and she's got a couple of channels because she makes stuff out of concrete, doesn't she? She's part of like a group of community of people that make awesome stuff with concrete.
Yeah, she made a couple of pieces for the Make It Matter charity thing.
That's right, yeah. But she told me off, but she was lovely about it, rather than actually like a teacher tells you off. She did it in a really nice way. So,
oh, she's awesome. What about you, Steve? You got a shout out?
Yeah, my shout out is a totes amazeballs young lady called Barbie the Welder.
Oh yeah,
she's very big on Instagram, and she's getting a lot bigger on YouTube. She's not been on YouTube that long, but she's up on, I think, 11,500 subscribers on YouTube. But she's an amazing artist with welding. She does welded sculptures. She does Harley Davidsons that she just welds out of junk, and she does these huge skull sculptures and stuff like that. But it's not only her creative side that's awesome, is that she's totally inspirational as well. She'll just jump onto Instagram and she'll have a rant about topics. She'll tell you openly about her life and stuff that goes wrong and what doesn't go wrong. And, you know, she's really successful and just such a hard worker. She's always working, always in the shop. So that's Barbie the welder, and she's got some amazing tattoos that would put JP's to shame.
Yeah, Dave is asking for a link. Yeah. Dave, get off your lazy butt. Go to YouTube, search for Barbie the welder. You won't have a problem finding her. Yeah. And if you can wait, then the link will be provided for you, so you can just click on Wednesday. All right. Jesus, Dave, come on.
Some of my tattoos. Does Steve realise I've got his logo tattooed on me?
Yeah. Other than that one, obviously.
And what about Rob's?
That's all right. But the funny thing is, I design Rob's, so I design Rob's.
And Izzy and Berkey.
Richard, I'm feeling a little left out. I don't know about you. But anyway,
Berkey.
So far, we've managed to shout out 3 ladies tonight. So, Richard, please don't screw it up.
Well, I'm very, very sorry to disappoint, because I didn't realise that this was like a ladies-only shout-out session. So I'm going to shout out a channel by Stefan Richter, and
Stefina. Yeah, I know her. Go ahead.
This channel was actually recommended to me by one of the viewers, and I cannot for the life of me remember who it was, so I apologise wholeheartedly. But I thank you at the same time, because this channel is absolutely awesome. It's all about I can't think of the name. You know, you get like these cast resin molded sort of sculptures, that's the word I'm looking for, that people they make it with clay and they mold it, and it's an absolute spot on replica of there's a Chewbacca one, there's a Hulk one, and there's like out of the kind of sci-fi type movie sort of things. But one of the things they did was the Jumanji board, the actual game board from the film.
Very cool.
Really cool, seriously. So basically they are an absolute artist with the plasticine modeling. So what they do is they make this awesome plasticine sculpture, and then they cover it in latex and make a mold, and then they cast that and make like a solid bust and put it on a stand, and then they put all the hair on it. So the Chewbacca one just is awesome. Who was that? I apologise for Jamie's just had his tea.
Whoa!
So they make...
I don't think that was Jamie. I think that was Mr. Twydell. Our special guest for this evening just left us with something a little special right there.
That's my impression of Chewie.
He ain't coming back next week.
No, I'm putting my foot down. Sure my cat wasn't in heat. I was like, "What the hell was that?" Like, okay.
Yeah, Red saying Stefan Richter. Yeah, they do these absolutely insanely awesome sculptures to the point they make the eyes, and they put like tiny little the veins in the eyes. It just is insane. And they literally made the Jumanji board from scratch. And I was looking through some of the videos and then found this Jumanji one. I was like, wow. And wow.
Well, way to keep the female vibe going, Richard. So Stefina, Richter,
Stephanie.
Stephanie. So I'm sorry, we didn't let you know this was supposed to be an all-female shout-out show, did we, Richard?
You didn't. I'll shout out Kat then.
Okay, then shut up. No, don't. Okay, we love Kat, but I mean, honestly, that
Kat, put the kettle on.
That almost that wouldn't be nice to her, because now it sounds like you're trying to make up for something. It's just not good.
That's all good. All good indeed. So is that the show? Are we done?
I think so.
Can we
Could be wrong, but yeah.
Done all the shout outs, done all the stuff. So I guess that kind of does wrap up the show this evening. So a huge thank you to everyone who is still listening. And actually there is a lot of you, which is kind of surprising.
Well, you know what we never wait, stop. You know what we never do? We never promote next week's show. And this week we actually know what next week's show is gonna be. So maybe we should take the opportunity to let people know what we're gonna be doing next week.
Well, it's not going to be Steve as a guest anyway.
No, Steve is in trouble. Steve's not coming back. No way. No. Next week.
Screw you, Richard.
Jamie, I believe you lined up next week's guest, didn't you not?
Yes, I did. Next week we have got Mr. Scott Grove from the YouTube channel Imagine Grove, and we also have special guest host Mr. and Mrs. Robin and Cole Jacobson.
Awesome. So that we've got that coming next week.
That's going to be
Yep.
good.
As long as nobody
Always.
comes down with the flu, and
Yeah.
you never know what's going to happen in a week's time, but that's what we plan. So next week, there you go. That's what we're planning on doing.
Cool.
And Richard, try and be nicer to your guests next week, will you?
Well, we've got a proper guest on next week, haven't we?
Oh my God,
Oh, he went there. He said it, didn't he?
he did.
Everyone heard that.
Steve,
No.
I apologize.
Not only
We've
is-
got a proper Turner in Robin. as
that's
well.
exactly what I was going to say. Not only is he a proper guest, we've got proper turners on as well.
Wow, that's just so wrong. Wrap it up, Richard, while you're on a low note.
You're the one that stopped.
Ask him to do a one-to-one next time, Richard.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait.
Awesome. So as I've already said, that Chris has probably already edited out. Big thank you to everyone still listening, and there are quite a few of you, which, like I said, does surprise me a little bit after tonight's show. But thank you all for listening. If you are still listening, if you're not, we will say what we like about you. In the meantime, don't forget to go over and subscribe to this channel, our channels, all the other Instagram stuff, and give us a rating on iTunes. See if you can quadruple our annual average on that one. That would be
Make it
good.
6. Make it 6.
So, until then, we will say cheerio and you have a good week.
Steve, thanks once again for coming on with us. We do appreciate it. The rest of you guys have a great week, everybody.
See you later.
Bye-bye.